What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live after Monday Night Football for your Week 17 NFL review, reaction, rants, and of course, my thoughts on every big storyline coming out of NFL Week 17, entering NFL Week 18, which is going to be very weird to get used to and talk about and discuss. Week 18. That just sounds weird coming out of my mouth. But we're going to discuss Week 17 because a lot of stuff happened. A lot of good, a lot of bad, and some very interesting. So stick around for this show. If you're joining me live, thank you for joining me live. Get in that comments. Let me know how you're doing, how you're feeling in the comments about your team, about the prospects for your team in the playoffs, or just generally about the NFL right now. Let me know, and always respond to every segment that I have here. Let me know your thoughts on it. I will always check your opinions and definitely respond. So let me know in those comments, and we will get to a very interesting show that I have a lot of different things to discuss. Went back, watched the games a second time, a lot of them, including a lot of the teams that are going to be in the playoffs, to try to get involved and try to get my mind focused on the playoffs. So really checking out those matchups and what I think of those teams at this moment in time. So we're going to break down all the topics here. But before that I do break down those topics, make sure you do spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more BLV just like this. And also spike that notification bell for the latest upload. Appreciate everybody joining me here live. If you would like to follow me on social media, you can. You can follow the channel on social media at TheBottomLineView on Instagram. This is where you'll find the Ultra 10 on Instagram every week. You can also follow me tweeting about absolute nonsense. Usually football, sometimes movies, sometimes other sports, sometimes anything that I set my mind to. So on Twitter, you can follow me on my personal account at Mitch Milani. The picture is the BLV logo, so you'll definitely realize that it is me at Mitch Milani, Milani. All right. Shout out first to everybody that supports me on the Patreon, the BLV GOATs. I see one of them is in the chat right now. Thank you guys for supporting me on Patreon. If you would like to become a member, a patron of the channel, you can check it out. Link is in the description. You get my bets every single week on the NFL there for $5 a month. You also get the BLV vs. Consensus podcast for $3 a month. That includes myself, Ultra, Lenny, Durkant. We discuss many topics that I feel are not discussed on ESPN, Fox, whatever. And we get into the details and the nitty gritty. And I feel like we actually predict things that are going to happen in the NFL before it even happens. So it's definitely a good podcast to check out that you can only get on Patreon. We also preview every week in depth, every matchup. And we have some fun over there on Patreon. So thanks guys for joining me here. And let's get to the Week 17 review. Kicking it off with... and I can't find it. There it is. Monday Night Football. What's up, Hector? Coach. Aqua. What's going on, bro? Anthony. Connor. Ultra. Steven. Phil. Cole. Kim. Matthew. John. Jim in Florida. Shout out to everybody in the chat right now. Rick. Thank you guys for joining. All right. Monday Night Football. We had the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Doesn't mean a heck of a ton in terms of the future of this season and who's really going to make the playoffs. I got a little bit of a cold, so if I cough, I apologize for that. But the Browns and the Steelers. And this game wasn't really about the result. It was more so about the emotion with Big Ben Roethlisberger. As it's been known, this is Big Ben's last game in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field. And we saw that at the end of the game. It was an emotional game. And really, it wasn't very entertaining. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch the entire thing. I caught the end of it. But Pittsburgh came away with the victory. Pittsburgh still has a chance to make the playoffs. It's a slim one. So ultimately, the result doesn't matter. But what ends up mattering in this game is a few things, and I do have a few thoughts on both sides. First, when it comes to Big Ben Roethlisberger, I think there's a lot of different people with a lot of different opinions when it comes to Ben Roethlisberger. I think there's Steelers fans who love this guy. I think there's Steelers fans that feel this guy represents who they are as a team for the last 20 years. And I think they have a right to feel that way. I think he is one of the 20 best quarterbacks of all time. I wouldn't quite put him in the top 10 personally on my list. If you were to put him in that conversation, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you though. And I do believe one day he will be in Canton in the Hall of Fame. And I do believe he deserves that honor. He is a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Never ended up with the MVP award, but he had numerous great seasons. And I think the one thing I can say about Ben is he consistently won in this league. He consistently won in this league. He never had a year where they missed the playoffs, I believe. Or I should say, not missed the playoffs, because he definitely had a year like that. But they had seasons where they never had a losing record with Big Ben Roethlisberger, I believe. And that's just the consistency of Big Ben. I think the thing about Big Ben is he kind of feels like an old school, old era quarterback where he isn't like a Tom Brady or a Drew Brees, where he really treats his craft as his life. You could clearly tell that Ben Roethlisberger is somebody that uses the game of football as an outlet and to have fun and to build relationships. He feels like a guy that has been playing the sport to have fun. He doesn't feel like a guy like Brady, where it's kind of like he wants to be great. He is pursuing this and trying to have every detail down to be the very best. And I think there's ways to appreciate that. Some people may not be able to appreciate that. He kind of feels like an old school quarterback because honestly, Ben was kind of a guy, and you've even seen it in interviews where he's kind of like, I just take the ball and I throw it. Like, he's just naturally gifted to play quarterback. He was meant to play quarterback in his old days, I think, and by old days, I mean his early days as a quarterback in the NFL. I believe he was underrated. I think what he did for the team in terms of playing behind bad offensive lines, his ability to escape pressure and make plays, I think his scrambling ability is one of the most deceptive and underrated in NFL history. He had a very good arm, very accurate. When he really got into his second stage of his career, he became a more potent passer down the field. He had great touch on his deep ball. That era with AB, just phenomenal from a statistical perspective and the ability to put the ball down the field on the money. In his early era, I felt like he was kind of a lot like Brady in a way where he was on a team that was through their defense, and he kind of was asked to make the plays on offense and win them the games in the clutch. And I see Ben as that. I think it's going to be interesting for me on how I recall Big Ben down the road, because we have seen at least 2 to 3 years now where he just hasn't been the same player that I remember. And that has kind of shadowed what I think of him a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But I think down the road, 5 to 10 years from now, I think we're going to recall Ben for more of like that guy that was just a gamer. Like, that's kind of the word that I think of, is like, he went out there no matter the weather, the circumstance, no matter the supporting cast, and if the game was on the line, he was going to try to do everything he could to make a play. I feel like if the Patriots didn't exist, Ben would probably have another Super Bowl or two. He played in the era that I always say is the AFC's greatest era of the 2000s, and he was a large part of that. There was a run where it was Brady won the Super Bowl, Manning won the Super Bowl, Ben won the Super Bowl, or Flacco won the Super Bowl. And that was pretty much the whole era of that like stretch run. And the AFC dominated, you know, between the Steelers, the Patriots, the Colts, the Chargers. All those teams dominated the NFL, and Ben was right in the middle of it. And he had early career success, right? This guy immediately from the very get-go took over the NFL. He went 15-1 in his rookie season. He was the number 1 seed in his rookie season. He won the Super Bowl in his second season, right? He was a consistent playoff team for years. Won his second Super Bowl like 4 years into his career. He went to another Super Bowl like 7 years into his career. I think he's an all-time quarterback. I think there's also the questions about, there's obviously questions about his off-the-field stuff earlier in his career. And I think that's definitely warranted to discuss on how that impacts him as, you know, a legacy. I don't really know enough information about that to be honest with you to really discuss it. But I think overall as a football player, he was dynamic. He was a gamer. He was a baller. And he did it in an old school love for the game type of fashion. He fit the Steelers. He was tough. He took a lot of beatings over the years. And he had a very unique playing style. A very unique playing style. He was a big guy that could move and that could take on contact, escape contact, and make big throws down the field. And that's how I remember Big Ben as a football player. So, congratulations, Ben Roethlisberger, on what is likely his last game with the Steelers in his home stadium. And if he is to retire, we don't officially know, but if he is to retire, that was a great career. That's a Hall of Fame career, and that's a career to be proud of. So I just wanted to say congratulations to Big Ben. Always a great quarterback, a great career, and something to look back at for a lot of Steelers fans and say that was one hell of a run. So congratulations to Big Ben. That's a nice way to go out there with that last second quarterback kneel, to go out there after the Mayfield interception and be able to do that. That was pretty special. That was pretty cool. And to be able to win his final game at home was pretty cool over a team that he dominated for many years, for a decade plus. That was pretty cool. So congratulations to Big Ben. And that's just what I want to say about that. In terms of the rest of the game, I think there's another couple of topics to discuss here. So on top of Big Ben, there's a couple other storylines to take away from this game. I think the first one is TJ Watt. TJ Watt locked up the Defensive Player of the Year tonight. He had 4 sacks in this game and really was in the backfield consistently. He was unstoppable in this game. And he's going to win the Defensive Player of the Year. You could argue he should have won it last year. And in my personal opinion, and this is going to be a shock to nobody when my rankings come out, obviously he was already my number 1 edge player in the NFL. He's the best defensive player in the NFL in my opinion. I think he's surpassed Aaron Donald in terms of his impact as a pass rusher, as a run defender, as even a coverage player at times, and the amount of big plays and big moments that he makes. On top of his importance to the defense, I think he deserves Defensive Player of the Year. He's going to get it, and I think he'll be at the top of all of my defensive rankings in the offseason. So we'll see if he's able to break that sack record. I think that's a pretty incredible thing to do. He might have done it, and I don't know how many games he's missed. I feel like he's missed 2 or 3 games this year, so that would make it even more impressive for him to be able to go out there and do that next week. So, yeah, TJ Watt was amazing. And I think he's an all-around great player. Now, what else do I got to discuss? Well, I do got to get a quick discussion about the Browns. because the Cleveland Browns were one of my most hyped teams entering this season. I thought the Cleveland Browns were going to be one of the teams in the AFC to contend to get to the Super Bowl and even win the Super Bowl. And boy, was I wrong about that one. And I will come out and say that. And I think I've already kind of done that. But now that their season is officially over and they have officially clinched last place in that division, we got to look back and say what went wrong. Because it wasn't just me who said the Browns were going to be good. Like, it wasn't just me at all. It was a lot of people. A lot of smart people, too. Okay? And the Cleveland Browns came out this season and straight up laid an egg. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. A lot of different reasons for that. And the first one, and you guys know where I'm going to go with this, Baker Mayfield absolutely blew it this year. In the offseason, coming off his best year of his career, coming off a stretch run where he was quite honestly one of the 12 best quarterbacks in the NFL at the end of last year. He was awesome. We only thought he would get better, right? We only thought adding Odell to the receiving core was going to help him. We only thought Kevin Stefanski as the OC in his second year was going to help Baker Mayfield. We only thought the best offensive line in the NFL was going to help Baker Mayfield. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, all these tight ends. A better defense. Baker Mayfield was utterly atrocious this season, and I don't think there was a quarterback in the big games versus good teams that was worse. Okay? He was atrocious again today. He took 9 sacks, and I understand some of that is on the right tackle, but like 9 sacks, to me, sacks is a quarterback stat because you can avoid sacks. I mean, just if you disagree with me, just look at Dan Marino's sack list, look at Peyton Manning's sacks, look at Drew Brees' sacks, look at Tom Brady's stats and sacks, and take a look at those stats, and let me know if you think sacks is a quarterback stat or offensive line stat. But regardless, Baker Mayfield this year took not just 1 step back, 2, 3, 4 steps back. He looks like a guy that you can't trust to be a future of a franchise. He was consistently inaccurate. He is not athletic enough to move and avoid pressure. He is a guy that is, quite frankly, too small. Too small. He can't see down the field. When he gets pressure in his face, he can't make a throw. There's nothing about Baker right now that tells me he's better than Gardner Minshew. Like, if you were to tell me, who would you rather have next year, Gardner Minshew or Baker Mayfield, I would, at the same price, I would debate it. Now, at the price that each is probably going to go for, I would definitely take Gardner Minshew. Okay? Baker Mayfield was really bad, and the top reason they were a bad team this year. Second reason, their overall offense just wasn't as productive. Some of that could be Stefanski. A lot of that was Mayfield. Some of that was the offensive line injuries. Some of that was the running back injuries. I think the lack of explosive, dominant rushing attack certainly hurt this team. The defense not reaching expectations is part of it. I think they need to revamp their defensive coordinator. I think they need a receiver. And I think they need to seriously think about Baker Mayfield at quarterback. I don't think he's the guy. I think they should go in a different direction. I think they've got a roster in Cleveland where you could try to pry like a Russell Wilson. You could try to get a Russell Wilson. You could try to get an Aaron Rodgers. You could try to get one of those, even a Kirk Cousins. If you said, hey, Kirk Cousins is available, Kirk Cousins would take this team to the next level, right? A Matt Ryan I would take over Baker Mayfield. And I think they need to evolve in terms of their passing game. There's a clear hole, and this has been a hole in a lot of different Stefanski, Kubiak type of schemes. their drop back passing game just simply doesn't have enough in it. It doesn't have enough variety. It doesn't have enough depth. It's not creative enough. It's too simple. And a lot of teams are able to expose that when they fall behind. When the Browns fall behind, you force them to pass from the shotgun, from drop back, and you can expose them that way. There are a lot of different problems with this team, but there is still a lot of talent on this team. Jarvis Landry's getting older. Clearly their worst position group is a wide receiver. It's not even a question. Their offensive line is intact. I think what they've done from the front office perspective is solid. I think they can build around what they've already got. Think about a quarterback. Think about some receivers. Think about defensively getting a new coordinator. And I think maybe adding a couple pieces of depth in all areas, linebacker, defensive line, whatever you got to do. But it's not a stretch to say that if the Browns improve in a couple of areas, that they can get back to where they were a couple of seasons ago. And I'm really intrigued to hear about Baker's and his injuries, because we haven't really heard a lot about what's going on with him. And I don't want to completely tear him apart. I've torn him apart enough, and clearly injuries have had some impact. But what I would say about that is, if you're so hurt, why are you playing in a game that doesn't matter? This is Monday Night Football, Steelers, Browns. This game does not matter. The Bengals beat the Chiefs. Your season is over. Why are you playing if you are hurt? That's what I would say. And you took numerous hits in this game. You got sacked 9 times in this game. 9. Why are you playing then? You don't need to play. You're not a tough guy because you're playing in a meaningless game when you've got a banged up shoulder. You're an idiot. That's what you are. You're not tough. You're stupid. Okay? But that's what I got to say about the Browns. Very disappointing team. In my opinion, the most disappointing team in the NFL this year. Cleveland Browns. Steelers, they're exactly where I thought they would be. I think I predicted them to go 7-10 or 8-9, something like that, maybe. They're exactly where I thought they would be. Did they get a little bit luckier with their schedule than I thought they would? Yes. But overall, they're about where I thought they would be. Their defense isn't as good as I thought it would be. Their offense clearly is no good. It's terrible. Big Ben took a huge step back. Their offensive line's still garbage. I think a lot of people predicted the Steelers accurately, but the Browns, so disappointing from a number of different perspectives. Defensively, offensively, coaching, quarterback, not good enough. Not good enough. See you, Connor. All right. Let's talk about this. We got the Ultra Power Rankings. I know this is why all of you people tune in. You want to see the Ultra 10. You want to see what Ultra cooked up in the lab for you. The Ultra 10. And this one, I'll say, is both really difficult and a tad confusing. Okay? I think Ultra is going out on a limb on some of these picks, on some of these rankings. And you can, of course, find this on Instagram tomorrow. So follow us on Instagram at TheBottomLineView. Give us a comment over there. Let us know how you feel about it. All right. This is the Ultra 10. The Ultra 10. At number 10, he's got the Cincinnati Bengals, who just defeated the Kansas City Chiefs. Congratulations to the Bengals. We'll talk about that game later. The Bengals, with their biggest win in years over the Chiefs, enter the Ultra 10 after Week 17. The Colts, at number 9, after losing to the Raiders, Ultra isn't buying that they're not still a top team. He's got them at number 9. At number 8, the Arizona Cardinals. Despite beating Dallas, they are a spot below Dallas in the Ultra 10. Very interesting. I think you could argue that Arizona should be higher. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments. Kyler Murray took it to Dak and company. And I think there's a reason to talk about the Cowboys. Is Dallas not as good as we think? I mean, 6-5 or whatever they are versus every team with a decent record. What's their record outside the NFC East? Like 6-5? They've dominated the NFC East, but is that enough to be number 7 in the power rankings? At number 6, he's got the Buffalo Bills, who had a victory over Atlanta, his team, so he saw them up close and personal. Josh Allen is an elite quarterback. Defense is still playing very well, but we saw that Allen in bad weather and the Bills in bad weather can be taken advantage of, and we will see if they'll be able to do it in January in probably bad weather at home. But Buffalo is an explosive team that can just about beat anybody when they're on. At number 5, he's got the Titans. He is back on the Titans bandwagon after they demolished the Miami Dolphins. In a game that the Dolphins had to win, the Titans embarrassed them. Was that the Dolphins just playing an actually good NFL team for the first time in weeks? Or was that the Titans creating a statement for what they're going to be in the playoffs? Not really sure. I'll talk about it on my power rankings tomorrow. And I also have a topic talking about the Titans later on tonight. At number 4, the BUCS. He moves the BUCS down. They beat the Jets on a last-second drive from Tom Brady. Very epic drive. We're going to talk about the BUCS here in a second. Tampa Bay has a lot of injuries on defense, and that showed up in this game. Zach Wilson played well against them, moved the ball. Braxton Berrios moved the ball, and it was difficult on the BUCS. That was not an easy win, but they found a way to come out with a win, and they're moving down because of it. At number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs, who lost to the Bengals, moved down for Ultra as well. They were his number 1 team, I believe. They moved down to number 3 after their loss to the Bengals. I think the Chiefs showed that they are still human and are not past what we thought they were past. And that is a very interesting topic to discuss. I'll probably discuss it at the end of this live stream. The Chiefs losing at this point in the year is interesting to me. At number 2, the Los Angeles Rams. This is really the one that stood out to me when I first saw it. The Rams feel high at number 2. Like, I watched the game versus the Ravens. I was not overly impressed by that game. I have not been impressed by Matthew Stafford's play recently. The offense just can't really seem to get any rhythm going. Defensively, though, I will say they're playing very solid, and that gives them a chance. They're as talented as anybody. I just don't know if I have the right vibes with the Rams right now. But hey, that's Ultra's opinion. That's his perspective. At number 1, the Packers. So, Packers have the number 1 seed in the NFC. They have the best record in the NFL. I think they're deservedly the favorite. And even though I think they're a flawed football team, they're getting healthier entering the playoffs, unlike a team like Tampa, who's only getting more beat up. So, Green Bay has a guy that might win the MVP. They've got the best receiver in football, arguably, with Devontae Adams. And they've got a very good coach in Matt LaFleur, and they've got home field throughout the playoffs. They're not unbeatable by any means, and we've seen their flaws up close and personal, but on Sunday night, they were able to beat down a division rival with Sean Mannion at quarterback, but nonetheless, they beat them down, and they showed the world that they've got as good of a chance and probably are on the top of the list in kind of a weak field of a bunch of teams on both sides. They've got the home field, they've got arguably the best player, and they've got enough complementary pieces to be able to get this done. So at number 1, I don't disagree with Green Bay. All right. So, let me know what you think of the Ultra 10, the Ultra Power Rankings, and as I say, you can find it on Instagram. What's going on, everybody? If you're just joining me, let me know how you're doing, how you're feeling. If you haven't already, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button. And let's move on to the rest of the topics. All right. So this is the headliner. This is the thumbnail. This is the title. Tampa Bay and Antonio Brown break up. AB bailed on the BUCS. He bailed. What even happened on the sidelines? That is my question. I want to know. Because from a logical perspective, Antonio Brown just flipping and leaving and taking all of his clothes off and throwing them into the stands, from a logical perspective, makes no sense in the world. No sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. And while it was great meme material, it wasn't great Mitch material. I don't get it. I don't understand why Antonio Brown just decided to peace. He decided to say deuces and dip. Why do you think he dipped? There was obviously some sort of disagreement on the sidelines between Bruce Arians and Antonio Brown. Some people say that AB wanted to play and Arians wasn't letting him get on the field because of his incentives. Some people are saying that AB was hurt and he was saying he couldn't play and Arians cut him on the sidelines. So that's why he left. Some people are saying that it was just Antonio Brown, so he just left. He was paranoid. There's no sense in it. He just dipped. Some people are just saying, that's who he is. But it's really weird. He seemed committed to this team. He seemed committed to his quarterback, his coach. From a logical perspective, it doesn't add up. I want to know the story. But I've got to discuss this. So, there is a lot of funny stuff on the internet about this situation. Bro, this guy Antonio Brown showed up at the Nets game on the sidelines in ultra sunglasses, sitting like, bro, courtside, first row, just unbelievable. Like, this guy, the day after, shows up at an NBA game, and people are taking pictures of him with sunglasses inside like he's Terrell Owens. Antonio Brown had meme material from the way he exited the field, taking all his clothes off, from him getting an Uber. Guys, there is a picture of him waiting for an Uber outside of the stadium. There is a video of him getting picked up and being in the car of an Uber. There are numerous memes. This whole situation is a meme. But I think separating it, and I think there is comedy in this. I think this is funny. I got a good laugh out of it. But I think we've got to come back to the situation. Antonio Brown is not right. Like, Antonio Brown is messed up. And I don't think it's Antonio Brown's fault. I personally, from my perspective, think that Antonio Brown is mentally ill. I think he has problems, and I don't think it's because he is born this way or he is that way. I think he legitimately has issues that are from football. I think his brain has been messed up. And I think that is why he acts out. I think that is why he has these random tantrums, like he's a 5-year-old kid. And some people say it's CTE, it's Vontaze Burfict. I mean, it very well might be. And it's a difficult conversation to have because I don't know 100%. I am not a doctor, and I have never seen a report that suggests that he has CTE or that he has some sort of issues. But all I know is that Antonio Brown was a certain person for a long time. We never heard anything about Antonio Brown in a negative fashion. We only heard about how he worked hard, was a great player, good guy. And then all of a sudden, he forces himself out of Pittsburgh. He has that 1 year after the Vontaze Burfict hit where he kind of throws a temper tantrum and he wants to get traded. So he goes to the Raiders, has that whole thing. And it feels like he even went to the Patriots and he got cut. It just feels like he is not right as a person. And I hope he gets the help that he needs. Like, I thought it was more of, I don't know what I thought it was, to be honest with you. I thought with Tom Brady, a good infrastructure around him, he'd be able to get past whatever he was going through. But clearly this guy, and I don't think it's, I don't think it's like him as a person, his character. I know a lot of people think that. I honestly don't think that. I think it has something to do with his chemistry in his brain, bro. Like, I think he's paranoid for certain reasons. I think the way he has been portrayed through the media for a long time has seriously affected him in a negative fashion. I think his past is starting to haunt him a little bit. It's really, really tough to talk about. It's really tough to discuss. It's tough to analyze. I don't understand it. It's not logical. And to me, when something is not logical, it means that the guy's got something wrong with him. I could understand if somebody came out and was like, the guy's not playing me because, and I've got the incentives and I need to play to get these incentives for my money. Give me my money, pay my man my money. But that's not the case. I don't think the case is that he was hurt and that's the reason. I think he got really paranoid and he just left. Like, I think he broke down in the middle of a game. I don't know. I think that's what happened. And it sucks too. It sucks for Bruce Arians, but it especially sucks for Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady, like, basically put his reputation on the line for this guy. It's his friend. He wants to help this guy. He wants this guy to be good on and off the field. He gave this guy his only opportunity. And it sucks for Tom Brady because Tom Brady's the reason AB was on the BUCS and was in the league and had another opportunity and is clearly his friend. Clearly. Like, sure. Does Tom Brady probably realize that without AB, they don't have as good of a chance to win? Yes. But I think it's more to do with like, AB kind of embarrassed him and kind of like stabbed him in the back, like clearly the way that Antonio Brown left the game, he didn't care about the team. He didn't care about his quarterback, his friend. Like, that's tough. And I thought Tom handled it very well. And it sucks. Because you guys know, I think Antonio Brown's an all-time player. I think he's one of the greatest receivers of all time. I think right now, physically, he's still amazing. He's still one of the best there is. But mentally, he is not right. And I hope that he gets help. If he just leaves, if he's released, if he never plays again, and he doesn't get any help, that is not good. That is not right. I don't know. I've got nothing else to say. It was shocking when it happened. I couldn't understand it. And a lot of people were like, what do you think? What happened to AB? I was live during when it was going on. I was doing the Bengals and Chiefs game. And everyone's like, Mitch, what happened with AB? What's going on, man? What happened? I'm like, I have no idea. Edgar says he doesn't want help. He needs help. He is not right. He doesn't want help because he doesn't think he needs it, because he's not right. Bro, he's not right. He's not okay. And I don't think people should be stripping down his character and there's a lot of bad things being said about him. There's a lot of ugly things being said about him. And I just don't agree with that because I don't think that's who he is. Clearly, Tom Brady doesn't think that's who he is. So, I don't think that's who he is. Sure, could he be a little flamboyant? Sure. But like, some of this stuff just doesn't make sense. I don't know. I'm going to go on the next topic because I know you guys want me to stick to football. I just have nothing else to say. So, the next topic that we have to discuss about this is, how does this impact Tampa Bay as a football team? How does this impact the BUCS as a football team? Well, are the BUCS done? Is this too much for them to overcome? And I honestly don't know. I think this is a wait and see sort of thing. I personally believe that given the way that the AFC is and the NFC is and the competition level, that I wouldn't discount a Tom Brady team no matter who is on the team. Is Tampa playing great football right now? Are the champs looking to repeat playing good football right now? No. They almost lost to the Jets. Okay? But they have a lot of injuries right now. And as long as they get healthy, right? In that game versus the Jets, just for example, they were missing a lot of their players in their front seven. They were missing JPP, Shaq Barrett, Levante David. Those guys alone in their front seven. And I think for the key for the BUCS, if they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, if they're going to repeat, they need their defense. I don't care about Tom or the offense, the running game, the passing game. The key for Tampa Bay without Godwin and Antonio Brown is their defense. If the BUCS defense shows up and is healthy and as long as everybody that is hurt right now shows up for the first game, they will have all their starters intact. They will not be missing a single player from their defense. Everybody will be ready to go. That includes all their corners, all their D linemen, all their linebackers, all their safeties. And all this year, this defense hasn't been healthy. This defense has been missing corners. This defense has been missing safeties. This defense has been missing edge players. This defense has been missing linebackers every single game. This cornerback, the starting 3 cornerbacks of Dean Davis and Sean Murphy Bunting, have only played 3 games this year together. So, if the Bucs are going to go on a run, their hopes and dreams of winning the Super Bowl back-to-back does not fall on Tom Brady's shoulders, because we know Tom Brady is going to be Tom Brady. It rests on the shoulders of the defense. The defense was a huge reason they won the Super Bowl last year. There is no debate. Despite them scoring 30 points in every game they played last year, they were missing Antonio Brown for that run until the Super Bowl. Yes, they had Chris Godwin, right? They didn't have Vita Vea until the NFC Championship. They didn't have Alex Capo, one of their starting guards, for the whole run. This is a team that is obviously proven. This is a team that matches up extremely well with the NFC's number 1 seed in the Green Bay Packers. And if this defense is hitting on all cylinders, they're as good as any team, no matter what their receiving core looks like. And I'll say this about the offense. Leonard Fournette is a big get back. I think playoff Lenny is a big deal, both in the passing game and the running game. The offensive line being arguably the best in football, it's got to be an X factor for them. Gronk has to be. If they want to win the Super Bowl, Gronk has to be vintage Gronk. He's got to be vintage Gronk. He had over 100 yards versus the Jets. He's got to be vintage Gronk. He has to step to the table as the number 2 option now, with Mike Evans being the number 1. I think they've got to find more creative ways of involving Mike Evans as not just an outside perimeter target, but also in the slot. Move him around, get him the football. And we've got to see guys like Grayson and Perryman and Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson and OJ Howard and Cam Brate. They've just got to make enough plays. We've seen Tom Brady go on runs with a lot less on offense. But what's always been the difference for Tom Brady between winning the AFC Championship, losing the AFC Championship, winning the Super Bowl, or losing the Super Bowl is not the receivers. It's not the running backs. It's the defense. Tom Brady has always made it far in the playoffs. Trust me. But the difference has always been, is the defense that year good or are they bad? And that's ultimately what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be. Because this year, the top teams in the NFL are not very good. They're just not very good. Everyone is beatable. And when you're a team with all this championship experience, all this chemistry, and with the Antonio Brown situation, if there is any positive to come out of it, it could be the camaraderie of the group, growing closer together, realizing that they must rise to the occasion. And who knows what type of impact he has had on the locker room with them in terms of that, because clearly this has been going on for a little bit longer than we would have thought. So, am I closing the door on Tampa as a championship contender? No. Do I get the good vibes about this team being the Super Bowl champs of the future? No. But honestly, last year, despite me picking them to run the table and win the Super Bowl before the playoffs even began, I was skeptical about it. I thought a lot of things had to go their way. And a lot of things will have to go their way this year as well. But that's just what has to happen with every team. But again, guys, first and foremost, the defense. Secondly, vintage Gronk, good offensive line. We know Brady's going to rise to the occasion. I think the Grayson kid's been playing really good, and Perryman they really like. So those guys will have to step up and play big, and they can, but we'll find out. I think they've got a chance still. Would I pick them right now? I'm not sure. We'll see after next week. That's when I make my playoff predictions for who I think is going to get to the Super Bowl, who's going to win the Super Bowl. A lot of it is a vibe thing, though. I don't really get great vibes with this team right now, the way they're playing. But I will say, my vibes would have been a lot worse if they lost to the Jets. The fact that they were able to come back and beat the Jets says to me that they've still got that X factor. They've got that clutch ability. They can rise to the occasion, and with Tom Brady, they can beat anybody. So I think that's really interesting. I know a lot of people are going to cross off the BUCS as a contender. I'm not quite willing to do that. I just think when that defense is healthy, they are very good. And Tom Brady, I think you could argue, is the best player in the league. So on that note, I do want to discuss Tom Brady, okay? So something really interesting is happening with the MVP conversation. And over the last 3 to 4 weeks, the MVP has shifted from a conversation or a debate of Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. And now it just seems to be it's Aaron Rodgers. And I'm like, hold on a minute. Aaron Rodgers is playing great. But why is Tom Brady not the MVP of the NFL? Can we hold on and think about this for a second? And I've got something to back up here. So, why is Aaron Rodgers the clear MVP? What stats does Aaron Rodgers lead the NFL in? I just don't understand why the conversation has shifted from a debate, and some people will say Rodgers, some people will say Brady, to almost a narrative of it is Aaron Rodgers. Okay? Literally on Sunday, I know it was versus the New York Jets. Tom Brady had 400 plus yards, 3 touchdowns. His leading receiver, his favorite target, left the field, threw all his gear into the stands, and they still came back and won that game with 50 seconds left and no timeouts on their own 10-yard line and scored a touchdown, which was the throw by him to an undrafted wide receiver named Cyril Grayson for 33 yards. It's very odd. So let's talk about this a little bit deeper. Okay? Tom Brady this season, right? This is before the game. First in completions. I know that a lot of people don't care about completions and attempts. This is why completions and attempts matter, okay? Aaron Rodgers has never been a big completions or attempts guy. Why completions and attempts matters to me is because it means you literally carry your team. That's what it means. And when you're talking about a most valuable player award, it's not just about the volume of throwing a lot of passes. Throwing a lot of passes means you needed to throw a lot of passes to win the game. I know a lot of people just think that attempts are a way for people to get yards. But they wouldn't be attempting a lot of passes if they didn't need to attempt a lot of passes to win. This isn't like Tom Brady and the Bucs are 5-11. They've got 12 wins. He has a lot of completions and attempts and is winning. He has 3 games this year where he has completed over 40. He has attempted over 50 passes and won. That's insane. Okay? His passing yards is the highest in the NFL, and he's going to have over 5,000 by the end of the year. He now has 40 touchdowns on the year, 37 entering the game. He leads all of these stats. Not only that, when you compare him to Aaron Rodgers, they're separated by 1 win and 1 loss. And I would just say that Aaron Rodgers played the Saints once and Tom Brady played the Saints twice. And that's the difference between their records. The EPA, Tom Brady is second, Aaron Rodgers is fifth. QBR, Rodgers is first, Brady is second. Okay, a little bit closer than second and fifth. Passing yards, Brady has more. Touchdowns, Brady has more. But what's interesting about this, Brady has 1,000 more yards than Aaron Rodgers. Not 100, not 200, not even 300, which would be like a good game. He literally has three good games worth more yards than Aaron Rodgers. He has 5 more touchdowns. He has higher completed air yards, intended air yards, which means his passes are more difficult to complete. He's throwing the ball down the field more often. His on-target percentage and bad throw percentage, I don't really like these stats if I'm being honest with you, but I'm just taking this graphic. They're nearly identical. They're literally separated by like 1% or 0.1%. And then the drop percentage for Brady is 2%, 2.5% higher. So when you look at those stats, can someone please explain how Aaron Rodgers is the clear MVP of the NFL when Tom Brady literally leads every single stat in the NFL that people measure, right? Okay, this is a good way of saying this. When I make a video and I'm talking about somebody's Hall of Fame legacy, do I talk about how they led the NFL in EPA, or do I talk about how they led the NFL in passing touchdowns in 1994? Am I going to come back here 20 years from now and say Aaron Rodgers led the NFL in interception percentage? Or am I going to say that Tom Brady led the NFL in yards? You understand what I'm saying? It's just a little weird. It's a little narratively driven to me. I don't get it. And I had to bring this tweet up because I thought this person's name was hilarious. It is at BUCS give me Arian's salary, which this is completely correct. Okay? I think it's a she, so I'm going to say she. She says, we have a 44-year-old man leading the league in every passing category while carrying the hell out of an injury-riddled team with a bottom 5 coaching staff. And you guys understand how I rant about Bruce Arians and his coaching staff like every week. Matt LaFleur, I just literally heard somebody on a podcast say that Matt LaFleur is the best coach in the NFL. I just listened to that today. That Matt LaFleur is the best coach in the NFL. Bruce Arians is not the best coach in the NFL. Bro, if Brady did what Rodgers is doing right now, he wouldn't even have a debate to win this award. That is my point. And on top of that, Brady is doing it at 44 years old. Not 28. He's 44. Like, huh? And this is the final stat I got for you. From Tom Brady Facts, which if you're a Tom Brady fan is a good account to follow. There are 5 quarterback seasons in NFL history with 4,500 plus passing yards, 40 plus passing touchdowns, 12 or fewer interceptions, and 21 or fewer sacks. I brought up how sacks is a quarterback stat earlier. Peyton Manning twice in MVP years of 04 and 13. Brady MVP season of 07, and what do you know, Brady in the last 2 years. So, I just think this Aaron Rodgers is clearly the MVP thing is completely and utterly wrong and ridiculous. Personally, Tom Brady is the MVP. He has a worse coach. He's had to deal with a ridiculous amount of injuries on both sides of the football, as has Aaron Rodgers. Okay, so they're even there. I would say Tom has faced a more difficult schedule. I would say Tom's stats are far more impressive, on top of him being literally the only human in NFL history to do these things at his age. So, you could say Aaron Rodgers is MVP, and I won't be mad. I won't be mad. But I think you're wrong. And I just think the narrative is weird. That's all. I think we have gotten Brady fatigue. I think we've gotten to the point with Tom Brady where if he doesn't throw for like 60 touchdowns, he's not going to win the MVP of the NFL. And on Sunday, he didn't have Chris Godwin. AB left the game. He's throwing to Brashad Perryman, who got cut twice this year. Cyril Grayson, who nobody in this chat's ever heard of. His running backs are washed up Le'Veon Bell, Ronald Can't Catch Jones, and Keyshawn Vaughn. And he throws for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers beats the Cardinals, throws 15 passes at the line of scrimmage for 160 yards, and Aaron Rodgers is praised for being the MVP. It makes no sense. I don't get it. It's wrong. It's bad analysis. It's weak. Whatever you want to call it. That is my stance, that Tom Brady should be the MVP. Ultra says, no mistake that Peyton and Brady are the two on the list, with $5 super chat. Thank you, Ultra. Appreciate that. And yes, Peyton's great. All right. Where was I? I don't know. Okay. So my guy Lenny, which by the way, Lenny put out an awesome video today on his channel, the OG Lenny B, which you can find him in the infamous BLV Discord. Link is in the description if you want to join the community and talk football and talk Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. Get in the Discord. Link's in the description. Okay? He is a Raiders fan. And he said, Mitch, if you don't talk about the Raiders, I will literally come to your house and you know what? So, I am being forced to talk about the Raiders here, but I've got to talk about the Raiders. I told you, all of you people at home, I told you that the Raiders would win this game. I told you that they would win. And why would they win the game? Because the power of John Madden. That is why the Raiders won. The Raiders won because John Madden filled the Raiders with energy. The Raiders were powered by the great John Madden. They went to Indianapolis and they went boom, and they beat the Raiders. They beat the Colts. The Raiders smashed the Colts. Here's what I got to say about that. Okay? I went back and watched the game because I didn't get to see much of it live. Has anybody heard about this coin? There is a coin that has literally predicted every single Raiders game this season outside of the Washington football team game. This coin has predicted, guys, there is a coin that somebody flipped, heads or tails, and it has predicted every single Raiders game. Is that not the most Raiders thing you've ever heard in your life? This is real. Look it up. This is a real thing. The coin never lies. The coin never lies. But what I took from this game is a couple things. I have been rooting for the Raiders all year. I love the Raiders. I respect the greatness of the Raiders. But, again, the most underappreciated quarterback in the NFL wins this game, Derek Carr. Derek Carr deserves more respect. I come on here every week and I talk about Derek Carr. How is this football team even close to being in the playoffs? Guys, the Raiders suck. Like, quite frankly, they are bad. Like, they beat the Colts. Who do the Raiders have on their team? Like, look at their roster. Their offensive line doesn't have a single, like, above average player outside of Colton Miller, their left tackle. Darren Waller has been out for weeks. Their number 2 receiver is Zay Jones. Zay Jones wouldn't even be the 5th receiver on his former team, the Buffalo Bills. Hunter Renfrow is literally their best player outside of Derek Carr. And he is really good. Don't get me wrong, a future Patriot. But it's a white slot receiver who can't run vertically. Come on, bro. I know. He's good, but like, come on. And then their running back, Josh Jacobs, is overrated. He played well in this game. I got to give him credit. He played well. And they've actually found a little bit of a running game the last couple of weeks. But their running game has sucked all year. Their defense, actually, again, another unit that played well in this game. But like all year, they've been very inconsistent. And Derek Carr didn't really have his best game today, on Sunday. But he played good enough to win. This guy, I just don't understand. He gets no respect. He gets no respect. He deserves respect. He deserves some sort of award. I don't know what they're going to name it. They should name it like the John Madden Memorial. Give him the award. Man. But I learned a lot about the Colts in this game. And I learned about how the darling of the NFL, the dark horse of the NFL, everybody's favorite NFL team, the Indianapolis Banner Colts, who are probably going to hang a banner for making the playoffs this year. They lost this game, and I can see the future right now. I can see the future. The Colts are going to probably win a playoff game. They're going to run the ball. They're going to stop the run. They're going to do their thing. Frank Reich's going to have a great game plan. They might even pull off an upset. But can you count on Carson Wentz to win more than one game? Can you count on Carson Wentz in the playoffs? He is so inconsistent. He is going to lose them a game, straight up. In the playoffs, Carson Wentz is going to be the reason the Colts lose. And the reason I'm not picking the Colts to go to no Super Bowl. The Colts are eventually going to lose because of Carson Wentz. If you force them to play from behind, if you take the lead, take it to the Colts like the Raiders did, up 10-0, you force Carson Wentz into a game where he has to beat you, and you're gonna win. That's it. I don't trust Carson Wentz with anything. Back to the Raiders. I hope the Raiders make the playoffs. Unfortunately, I don't think they're gonna beat the Chargers. I think this Nate Hobbs now, guys, they've gone through so much this year. Their coach, their first round pick receiver, Henry Ruggs. And now Nate Hobbs. This team is resilient. This team has shown a lot of heart. This team deserves everybody's respect and admiration. But like, another player, Nate Hobbs with a DUI. Are you kidding me, bro? Are you kidding me? If they win that game, I don't even know what I'm going to say. They've gone through so much, so many obstacles. I don't recall a team with this good of a record going through all this crap. But the Colts, slow your roll with the Colts. I know that if they get to the AFC Championship, they will put a banner up for AFC Championship appearance. But I don't think they're going to have the consistency to get there from the number one guy, the quarterback position. I just don't see it. Carson Wentz is not reliable enough. He's not consistent enough. He was terrible this week. He was the worst quarterback outside of Mike Glennon this week. The worst. He sucks. Next. The New England Patriots beat the doors off of the Jacksonville Jags. They hammered Jacksonville 50-10. 50-10. New England got back on track with a huge win over the Jags, 50-10. And I'm going to square up here, sit up straight, zip up my hoodie. The Patriots aren't done. Everybody over the last 2 weeks has been ruling them out. Everybody's saying they've got no chance. The Bills are better. The Chiefs are better. The Titans are better. The Bengals are better. This, that, and the other. The Patriots are angry. The Patriots are underdogs. The Patriots are ready to roll for the playoffs. Next week, they're going to whoop the Dolphins' candy ass. They're going to roll up to the first week in the wild card round. It doesn't matter who they play. Give me Buffalo. I don't care. They're going to win. New England is going to have a run. They're going to have a run. I don't know where it's going to end. I believe in this team. Everybody is saying, okay, I got to bring this up in the Discord, which is why you got to get in the Discord. Ultra is saying that he doesn't believe in the Patriots because they've got no receivers. Ultra, you think that because they played the Buffalo Bills with no Nelson Aguilar and no Kendrick Bourne. Of course they look like they've got no receivers when they play one of the best pass defenses in the NFL and two of their top three receivers. And what did they do in that game? They played N'Keal Harry 90% of the fucking snaps. I said you can't play N'Keal Harry for one snap. Never mind 90%. This is a different team. This is a different offense without N'Keal Harry. No offense to that guy. He seems like a good guy. But he's garbage. He can't run. He's slower than Nelson Aguilar is backwards. Bro, he can't run. So, when they played the Bills, they had a slow receiver, two tight ends, one of them being an offensive lineman, a fullback that runs a 5-1, and a running back. And they didn't even have Stevenson. So you've got the slowest personnel in the NFL versus a top 3 defense. No shit, you're going to lose the game. Bro, the last 2 weeks, they played bad versus the Colts. I'll give the Colts a good win for that. They won on freaking special teams from 10 points. Then they played the Bills, and yeah, they lost. Bills played amazing. They played perfect. Josh Allen is a great quarterback, and they deserve to win that game. And I came on here and I told you, if they played again, there's no chance that happens again because Josh Allen literally played the best game of his life. It's not going to happen. Like, teams lose games. Everybody's been losing games. So after those 2 weeks, everybody discounts and throws the Patriots away. I get it. They beat Jacksonville. Jacksonville sucks. They're terrible. They're garbage. But bro, don't discount the Patriots and what they've done this year and how they can play with everybody and how they can beat everybody in this league and how Bill Belichick is better than all of the coaches in the playoffs and how Mac Jones is good. Mac Jones is good. This is one of the most complete teams entering the playoffs. Offensively, defensively, special teams. They take away the ball on defense. They don't got any weaknesses on defense. They're going to confuse your quarterback. Offensively, they're going to run the ball. And with those receivers, they can pass the ball. That is the weakest thing I've heard all year. They've got receivers. They just didn't play. And now when you take N'Keal Harry off, who is literally the worst receiver in the NFL, and you replace him with a practice squad guy in Wilkerson, he goes out there, he produces for 45 yards and 2 touchdowns. Because he can actually play football. So, what I'm saying here is New England's got as good of a chance to win this Super Bowl as anybody else. And that's all I'm going to say. They've got as good of a chance as anybody else. Because they're a complete team. They've got an energy and they've got a synergy of a football team that can do damage. This next game versus Miami, come out, lay the smack down, and roll into the playoffs. I love what I saw against Jacksonville. They destroyed them. They had the most efficient offensive game of any team in the NFL. Look up the stat. The Bills literally lost to Jacksonville. New England put 50 up. They put 50 up twice. No, I don't care what you think about New England's offense. No bad offense puts up 50 points twice in 1 year. That doesn't happen. And then put up 40 plus in other games. That doesn't happen. You're just a jackass, dumbass idiot if you think New England can't play offense. We're going to see in the playoffs, they're going to roll up and beat your favorite team. That's what's going to happen. I'm ready for it to happen. This is all stupid analysis. All we're hearing, New England can't pass, blah, 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 Mac Jones overrated, bust, whatever. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, they're not good on offense when their players don't play. I agree. I agree. But when their players play, they score. Simple. And the defense is pissed. So that helps. Okay. Let's talk about the Titans. This team that is being built up as the greatest team in NFL history by my Discord. Now, I would like to say this. And I don't even remember the score because it was so bad. Let me look. Let me look. Hold on. 36-13. New England whooped this stupid-ass team. But anyways, let's talk about the Titans. In all seriousness, the Titans are the number 1 seed of the AFC. And I think they do deserve our respect. I'm gonna be honest. I picked the Miami Dolphins to beat the Titans, and I look like an idiot because I did that. I look like an idiot. The Titans beat their asses. The Titans are a solid football team. The Titans are a tough football team. The Titans are a well-coached football team. Derrick Henry should be back for the playoffs. They should have mostly everybody back for the playoffs. They should be healthy entering the playoffs. I probably won't pick them to get to the Super Bowl. But again, nobody doesn't have a chance. Everybody this year has got a chance. And what I like about Tennessee is that Tennessee is well-rounded. Tennessee doesn't have that many flaws. And Tennessee has versatility as a team. We've seen them be able to run the ball all over people. We've seen them be able to come back and pass the ball on people that they can pass on. We've seen them be able to stop the run. We've seen them be able to pass rush. We've seen them be able to take the ball away. We have seen a lot of different things from Tennessee. Ultimately, I think Tennessee falls short because I don't think their offensive line nor their quarterback are very trustworthy, on top of the fact that I just don't think their offensive coordinator is very good or their cornerbacks are very good. But if they made the playoffs, they could make it because I think they could have a close game with every sort of team that are in the playoffs. I think they could play a tough game versus the Bills or versus the Chiefs or versus the Patriots. I think they could do that because Mike Vrabel's a great coach. And you shouldn't underestimate a Mike Vrabel-led team. They can really, in a January that is going to be full of bad weather, except for, ironically, probably Tennessee, right? Kansas City, Buffalo. Tennessee's almost a team that would probably be better off being on the road. But regardless of that, if Derrick Henry comes back and he's Derrick Henry, that obviously adds a bit of dynamic nature to their offense. I think that addition might be a tad overrated right now with this team because of how well their other running backs have played. But there's no denying that he is a great player. And there's no denying that their run defense has been very good. And they've been able to take the ball away from people. So I think this is a team like every other team in the AFC. They've been inconsistent. But the thing I will say about the Titans is at their peak, they have shown that they can beat everybody. That's something that you can't say about the Chiefs. The Chiefs have lost more games than they've won versus these AFC playoff teams. The Titans, on the other hand, have beaten the Chiefs. They've beaten the Bills. Ironically, the only team they've lost to is New England. So Tennessee is a team that has proven they can do it, has the playoff experience, has the coaching from Mike Vrabel, has the tough mentality in the playoffs that you need. I do think that there are areas that I don't trust. But you can nitpick every team in this field. So are they a sleeping giant? I don't know if they should be favored to win this conference. I think they will be because they have the first seed. But you guys let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think the Titans deserve to be favored in the AFC? Do you think they should be favored over the Chiefs, over the Bills? How far do you think the Titans are going to go? They're a really interesting team. So we'll find out what they're made of these next few weeks. Next, I want to quickly talk about this. The Giants ended up being the worst team in the NFL at the end of this season. The Giants are the worst team in the NFL. Mike Glennon had a grade so low that it wasn't even in the graphic. That's how bad it was. There's this efficiency graphic where all the teams are in the top right corner and the Giants are in the bottom left corner. Again, guys, I come on here a lot and I say, why is Mike Glennon even playing? Like, why is Mike Glennon even playing? Can someone explain why Mike Glennon is even in the NFL? Honestly, I think the only reason Mike Glennon played versus the Bears is to repay the Bears for that horrendous contract that they paid him. It's gross. It's disgusting. The Giants are a disaster. Joe Judge, honestly, has been told that he'll come back. Joe Judge has been a literal meme over the last 4 weeks. They're so bad. They are so bad. Honestly, you know what the Giants have done? The Giants have made Eli Manning a better football player through retrospect than I think anyone thought. That's what they've done. The Giants have literally made Eli better than I thought he was. I think that's true. I think what they've also done is shown that OBJ was right about the franchise. He said they were a bunch of losers. He was right. I feel bad for Saquon. He actually ran for 100 yards versus the Bears, but his quarterback had 30 yards, so it didn't matter. And they're a disaster. They got to revamp everything, but here's the problem. It starts with the ownership. This is something that I don't think people realize about a lot of football teams and a lot of franchises that consistently lose. It's not about the coach, the quarterback, the players all the time. It starts with the culture, and the culture comes from the ownership. The culture comes from the ownership. And the ownership has been terrible for this team for a long time. And they have not been able to have a winning culture consistently for a long time. And the culture there is it's a bunch of losers. The Giants are a bunch of losers. They need a new everything. A new everything. Coach, quarterback, offensive line. Get a new owner. You need a new everything. The culture is about everybody. It's about the offense, the defense, the special teams, the janitor, the team chef. Everybody is in the culture. And the Giants' culture stinks. Next. I want to talk about this game because we just started off the show with Ultra putting the Rams as the number two team, in the NFL. And quite frankly, after watching this game, I disagree. The Rams in this game, Matthew Stafford was bad for like the first quarter. Otherwise, I didn't think he was that bad. The thing with Stafford is he had the pick six, which was a huge play in the game. The Ravens should have won this game. And I think if they won this game, we would be talking about the Rams in a much different fashion. The Ravens had a 3rd and goal at the 4-yard line. And I believe they were... What was the score? I think they were up by like 1 score. They could have taken the lead. I don't know. I don't remember exactly. Okay, so I wrote it down. So they were forced to kick a field goal to make it 19-14. The score was 16-14 Baltimore, and Baltimore effed it up. They took a delay of game on 3rd and goal at the 4. And that forced them to kick a field goal to make it 19-14 instead of scoring a touchdown and making it 22-14 or 23-14, which in that case, the game would have been over. And really, that was the game changer in the game. There was a couple of game changers. So where the Ravens would have taken a 2-score lead in the 4th quarter, the game would have been over. Secondly, there was a Tyler Huntley interception before halftime that was atrocious. Like, I looked at that game and I said, yeah, that was an awesome comeback from Stafford. I've seen Stafford do that many times with the Lions. And as they said on the PFF podcast, I was listening and they were like, that was a Stafford from the Lions type of game. And that is totally true. He had a pick six. He had an epic fourth quarter comeback. All of it took place. He had some great throws. He had some missed throws. All of it took place. But the Ravens lost the game. And the Ravens aren't good. Like, the Ravens, I know that their name is the Ravens, so we think they're still good. But guys, this is their backup quarterback who is not a top 32 quarterback. This is an offensive line that has a bunch of players hurt, including their best player. This is a running back group that's a retirement home. This is a okay receiving core, a great tight end. By the way, shout out Mark Andrews setting the Baltimore team record for receiving yards. That's very impressive. Congratulations to him. Defensively, they're good coaching, well coached, but their cornerback group is completely destroyed by injuries. Their top two corners are out. Their defensive line, bunch of guys hurt. So, like, the Ravens are playing with second, third stringers in a lot of these spots. And the Rams survived versus them. And if you're going to get on, like, the BUCS, for example, for barely beating the Jets, then you should be on the Rams for barely beating the Ravens, because the Ravens are not good. Like, they are a shell of themselves. And the Ravens could have easily won that game. And the Rams offensively just can't seem to get any rhythm. Their run game has improved. I've noticed that they've kind of become more of the old kind of Sean McVay offense, where it's a lot of running with Sony Michel, who's playing very good for them, and then a lot of play-action boot stuff. But I still see on offense the same issues that they've got, and without Robert Woods, it's a bigger issue. Because Robert Woods was such a big part of what they do on that offense, and without him, Odell is a piece that helps them, but, like, he's not the same type of player. And offensively, whenever they're in drop back pass, they're just not good. Like, when you force them into drop back pass, they can't block long enough. The Ravens are getting pressure. The Ravens got no pass rushers, guys. You can blitz them up the middle of the pocket, and it's going to give Stafford issues because he's not a particularly mobile quarterback, and their guards aren't very strong. When to stop the Rams, you've got to slow down Cooper Kupp, which is hard to do, but you got to slow down Cooper Kupp, and you got to stuff the running game. If you can do that, you can beat the Rams offense. And in this game, for 3 quarters, the Ravens were able to do that. On the flip side, the Rams and special teams has been playing pretty darn well, but, like, who have they played on offense as of late? I mean, like, a bunch of hurt offenses. Like, I don't know. I just don't see it with the Rams right now. They're not giving me championship vibes. I think their defense playing better is definitely something that I take note of, but I just look at them as a team that doesn't seem to have it all together at this point, has not seemed to click at this point, and I just don't know if they're going to be able to click. If Stafford continues to play below average for him, they're not going to be able to do it. If Stafford can play well for him, right, really well, which is like good top 10 quarterback play, then they've got a shot. But if Stafford continues, and this is an overall offense issue, it's not just Stafford, but as an offense, if they continue to be a little bit inconsistent, stagnant, turnovers are a big part of this. If that continues to be a part of this, they're going nowhere. Like, that's what we've got to understand, because their defense isn't as good as last year. And this is something I want to bring up with the Rams that I think a lot of people are not talking about, okay? So a lot of people who are criticizing Matthew Stafford and the Rams this year don't really talk about how the Rams aren't the same team as they were. Like, if Matthew Stafford is the quarterback that he was now, with the team that they had last year, this would be the best team in the NFC. A lot of people are seeming to say, like, oh, Stafford's been good for them. He's got great stats, but, like, he's not really helping them win and lose games. Like, their win and loss record isn't really different. Well, yeah, okay. At face value, when you compare last year's Rams team to this year's Rams team, yes, that's true. But the Rams last year had the best defense in the NFL. The Rams last year had one of, the best punter in the NFL. The Rams are a team that was totally, their biggest weakness was their quarterback. But this offseason, they lost a lot of pieces on defense. They lost pieces now on offense with Robert Woods. Their offensive line lost a couple pieces. They lost their running back. So there are players that are missing from this team from last year that Stafford, his presence at quarterback, is having to compensate for. If you put Jared Goff in this same spot and expected the same results, it would not happen. So the Rams don't have the formula of how they won last year, right? Their defense is solid, but it's not great the way it was last year. Last year was clearly the best defense in the NFL. And people that are analyzing this team are thinking that this is the same roster, the same team, the same way that they played last year. It's not true. So with this game, I wanted to see how the Rams were playing, how it went for them, and overall, all I really came away with was ways to beat this team and not necessarily impressed by the team itself in how they're going to be able to win in the playoffs. I was impressed mostly by the defense, but offensively, all I saw were things that concern me moving forward. The Bengals and the Chiefs. I did my live reactions to this game. If you haven't checked that out, go check it out if you want to see some funny stuff on YouTube. I reacted live to it. Now, with this game, I think this is a really interesting discussion because I think coming away from this game, a lot of people are going to say the Chiefs are frauds and all this stuff. And then on the other hand, they're going to say the Bengals, they're a legitimate team. You've got to take them serious. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So, in a lot of ways, I feel that the Bengals win over the Chiefs was very similar to how the Bills beat the Patriots. And I don't mean it in terms of like the same way the game turned out or the way the game was played or like what the score was. But what I mean by that is the Bengals played a absolutely perfect offensive game in a lot of ways that I don't think, and a game that I don't think could be replicated in the playoffs. And what I mean by that is, if the Chiefs and the Bengals played again, I would take the Chiefs. And why is because the Bengals made a lot of plays in this game where it was just like improbable. Like Joe Burrow was making absolute dots down the sidelines to Jamar Chase one-on-one, and Jamar Chase Jamar Chase was absolutely phenomenal in this game. I have not seen a wide receiver play better this season. This was the best wide receiver game I had seen all year. This game was unfreaking believable by Jamar Chase. He was so good. And Joe Burrow was so good too. But Jamar Chase was unbelievable. Burrow was just throwing the ball to him in any sort of capacity. He was just chucking it up. And they were making plays. Like, I just don't think this performance by the Bengals, I think this is a phenomenal win. I think Bengals fans should be pumped. You won the division. But, like, I just don't think this game is repeatable. And especially from the standpoint of, I don't think the Chiefs are going to roll up and play the same way that they played in terms of their defensive game plan, allowing Charvarius Ward to be one-on-one on an island, which, by the way, was stupid by Spagnuolo and company. There are so many takeaways from this game. But my biggest one is that I just don't see this game happening again for the Bengals. If they, there were so many high leverage plays. 3rd and 25, conversions down the field, ridiculousness. Now, were there plays where they could have had an interception on Mahomes and that would have also helped? Yes. Like Eli Apple dropping a pick? Yes. So, on the flip side, amazing game by Chase, amazing game by Burrow, a phenomenal game for Zach Taylor, for the Bengals offense, absolutely unbelievable. The Chiefs, definitely, this is more about the Chiefs to me than anything else. I still think the Bengals are a good but not great team. After watching that game, I just felt like the Chiefs ran into a team that is very explosive, that has a lot of high leverage ability, has a lot of margin for error, that can make these insane plays that, when they're on, they're really tough to beat. And that's what happened in this game because Burrow was amazing. He's a top 5, top 7 quarterback in the league. Chase is a top 5 receiver. They just went off. They were unstoppable. You couldn't deal with it. But this game to me was more about the Chiefs. The Chiefs defense got exposed in this game. I mean, they played way too much man coverage. They got ripped apart by, that receiving core, by that quarterback. And I just don't think the Chiefs' defense is as good as people have been hyping them up to be. Are they a solid defense? Yes. They're not as bad as they played, but they're not as good as they've played in other games either. I think when you run into a team that knows how to attack the Chiefs, they're going to move the ball on the Chiefs. What I liked from the Chiefs, what I saw from the Chiefs that I liked was their offense. I thought their offense played very well. I thought Mahomes played very well. And even with that, Burrow outplayed him in a lot of ways. But, man, are the Bengals contenders? Personally, I don't think so. I think they're a good team. I think they're an exciting team. I think they won an exciting game. But I don't think they're a contender. With the Chiefs, I question this loss because championship teams that the Chiefs have been and teams like this don't lose games to that team at this point in the year. I just don't think if the Chiefs are a Super Bowl team, they don't lose to the Bengals in that game. I understand it was a crazy game, but it wasn't a fluke, Caesar. It wasn't a fluke because this is why it's not a fluke. It wasn't a fluke because the Bengals have the capacity to do that to you. And the Chiefs enabled them to do that, right? They played their corners on an island. They blitzed like crazy. They allowed these big plays to happen by forcing it from the Bengals and allowing that to happen. And Jeremy says the Bengals and Chargers are really exciting. Yes, both teams are very similar. What I'm saying about the Bengals, and you could throw the Chargers in as well, is they could have one game like this where they're phenomenal. They're phenomenal, right? But hold on. They can't put this together for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And that's what a contender to me is. Can you show consistency for 2, 3, 4 weeks? Right? And that's not what the Bengals are. I think they can pull off an upset on every team in the AFC because they have the capacity to make these huge game-changing plays. And they're so explosive. And they're so dynamic. But I don't think they can consistently do that week after week because on the other side of that, on the flip side, those plays lead to turnovers. Those plays lead to negative plays. They lead to sacks. They lead to all this other stuff. With the Chiefs, I'm concerned because they've lost to every good team in the AFC. They lost to Tennessee. They lost to Buffalo. They lost to Cincinnati. They lost to the Chargers. They've literally lost to every single AFC team that's worth a damn. And they've lost to one this late in the year. Somebody brought up the 2018 Patriots. The 2018 Patriots lost to all teams that missed the playoffs that year. And they actually won, I believe, the last 2 games of that season. So Kansas City is different from that team because Kansas City has lost all of their games to good teams. The Patriots didn't. They lost to bad teams, actually. But the Chiefs, I'm concerned because I think they built this mystique back up by playing mediocre to bad teams. And especially on defense, they played bad quarterbacks. And they got away with it. And I still think this defense, it showed its vulnerability. The offense, I will say, looks pretty close to normal and pretty close to back. And I'm not discounting the Chiefs to still make a run or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is I'm a lot more questionable about the Chiefs than I was last week. I thought they put all this stuff behind them. I thought they had this down. I thought they were back. I thought they were ready to roll into the playoffs. I thought they were going to roll over the Bengals. But now this loss is a seed in every other AFC team's mind of, you know what? The Chiefs just lost to the Bengals. They're not that good. They're not as good as maybe other people were building them up to be. And I think if the Chiefs would have confirmed, got that first seed, beaten the Bengals, everyone would have been like, the Chiefs, they're the clear favorites. They have this mystique, right? But the mystique is not there anymore because they lost this game. I think that's a big factor. I think that is a big factor. And on top of that, you don't have the first seed anymore. So it's real interesting. It's real interesting. But yeah, that game was a wild game. That was one of the best games of the year. I just don't know if it's repeatable for you Bengals fans. I'm sorry. All right. Let's talk quickly about the boys and the Cardinals. I have a couple more topics here. I know this show's been super long. I've been ranting a lot. It's almost 2 hours now. So I'm going to keep this one brief. But another team that kind of was somewhat exposed on Sunday was the Dallas Cowboys. So the Dallas Cowboys, a team that rolled over Washington in a very similar way. A lot of people were talking about the Cowboys in a similar way to the Chiefs of like, whoa, this team's got it going. They're rolling. They're unstoppable. And I don't think that's the case. Like, when we watch this game versus the Cardinals, I think if the Cardinals play the Cowboys, which is very realistic in the first round, I'm not so sure I wouldn't pick the Cardinals to win that game. The Cardinals seem to match up very well with Dallas. And we saw in this game a few things that I think are worrisome about the Cowboys, because this game to me is not about the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are a team that are not going anywhere. Like, I could see them winning a playoff game, but I think eventually they're going to lose. Second round, they're going to lose. Like, I don't see them going to the Super Bowl. I just don't. I don't think they're complete enough. I think we've seen their flaws over and over again. And actually, I feel like they're very similar teams here. Honestly, like, they both have similar flaws. Now with Dallas, some things that I see from them. So offensively, they're not good versus the blitz. The Cardinals lit them up with blitzes in this game. They just continuously blitz them to death in this game. And Dak was not comfortable all game long. He was antsy in the pocket. He was second guessing himself. They were lighting up the middle of the pocket. And Dak, we've seen this a few times, and even in the past from Dak, like, he kind of gets off his mechanics, and he throws like these bad passes when he's under duress, under the blitz. They lost Michael Gallup to an ACL injury. I like Cedric Wilson. I think he's a good player, but their receivers are really good. They've got a lot of talent, but the Cardinals slowed down the running game. They got them into these situations where they could blitz them. They knew it was a pass. They blitzed the living crap out of them. And really, they forced quick throws from Dak. And I thought this was an excellent game plan from Arizona. And Arizona, seemingly the last 2 years, have dominated the Dallas Cowboys. But yeah, this is just too much of the inconsistent Dak we've been seeing over the last 5 to 6 weeks. Inconsistent accuracy, inconsistent decision-making, holding on the ball, the offense not getting the easy plays, the run game being just mediocre. The defense is a bigger concern for me for Dallas. I think they play far too much man-to-man, and they don't have good corners. The Cowboys' corners are not very good. And Kyler Murray consistently attacked them down the field. The Cardinals found a little bit of a running game in this one. And Dallas doesn't really have a lot of big players in the middle of their defense. They've got a lot of athleticism. If Dallas gets you in a position where they can rush the passer, I thought the Cardinals did a fantastic job of protecting Kyler Murray. They gave him time to throw. They picked up the 4-man rush. Kyler was just one-on-one attacking the secondary. From Brown to Diggs. Diggs was getting burnt by A.J. Green. I mean, burnt like toast. I just see too many flaws in Dallas. I see too many flaws in Dallas from the way that Dak's playing. He needs to play better. To the way that teams are attacking their offensive line, to the running game and Zeke not being up to par, from the defensive secondary not being good, from the defense up the middle just not being very strong versus the run. I think there's a lot of areas of Dallas that you could take advantage of. And Arizona might be able to do it in the first round. They're going to get D-Hop back, obviously, so that's going to be a trouble for Dallas if they play again. But yeah, don't be fooled by the score. Arizona really, really dominated this game for the most part. And I give a lot of credit to Arizona. Okay, I'm going to finish off with this. And this is the main story of this entire live stream. Guys, let's be honest. Everybody sucks this year. Nobody is very good. Nobody is dominant. And ultimately, what this means for us as NFL fans is that we're about to see a very exciting, unpredictable playoffs. We do not know who's going to be the Super Bowl champion. We don't even know who's going to be in the conference championships. We don't know who's going to be in the NFC championship, the AFC championship. Heck, we don't even know who's going to be in the divisional round. We can't even predict the wild card round at this point. At least this is where I stand. I think this is the most unpredictable Super Bowl championship. The most unpredictable Super Bowl to predict entering the playoffs in a long time. I won't be surprised if I can't predict either side of the AFC or the NFC at the end of the day. I think this is going to be a completely wide open playoffs. I think anybody can beat anybody. Anybody can beat anybody this year. And that's going to make this very exciting, very entertaining, and filled with underdogs, probably, you would have to think. Because the favorites, we're talking about a Titans team that is the first seed. Titans! And the Green Bay Packers that are extremely flawed as the first seed. We've got the Chiefs being not as good as we thought, right? If you said to me in September to look at this playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised by the teams in the playoffs. I would be surprised by the quality of the teams. I'd be surprised by how they're playing. I'd be surprised by the Bills being the way they've been this year. I'd be surprised by the Chiefs being as beatable as they've been this year. I'd be very surprised by Tampa Bay. I'd be extremely surprised by the Rams and how they've put all these pieces together and how they've loaded this roster up and they're still kind of beatable. I would be surprised by a lot of these teams on both sides. Like, I don't know who's going to make it. You don't know who's going to make it. We will find out. And all I got to say is, everybody sucks. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that means it will be very entertaining. So that is your NFL Week 17 reaction review. It was very long, very deep, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to Gronk spike that like button and subscribe for more BLV just like this. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe if you haven't already. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Dash, Steeler Nation, Yash, Jeremy, Becca, of course, One Pride, Caesar, the man himself. Who else? Corey, Keenan, Ryan, thank you. I'm crazy. Mr. Peter, Lenny B, thank you guys for tuning in. The Batman's going to be good, Steeler Nation. All right, peace.